Hello and welcome into the Retirement Playbook brought to you by Alspaugh Wealth Management. I am your host every week, Mr. Brock Alspaugh, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Tony Shore. Hello, Tony.
Hello, Brock Alspaugh. I am so excited about today's show. I couldn't be happier to be here. We're going to have a great one. I want to get your take on a lot of what's going on out there as people invest, they save, they think about retirement. Maybe they're not thinking about retirement, but they should be. But we're going to talk about that. But I love to get your take on what's going on out there. I mean,
I would love to get my take, too, on the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's the first. I was going to start there. We'll work our way to tariffs. We'll work our way to tariffs, but we'll start with the Super Bowl.
Tariffs, Smaris, man. This is all about the Chiefs this week, okay? So let's go, Chiefs. Let's go, Red Kingdom. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's be out in droves, and let's cheer on our team. I mean, I am so excited, Tony, that, I know their Vikings aren't in it, but
we choked.
But I will tell you, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game.
That is all I hope for is a good game. I mean, I don't have a horse in the race, but in one way, it would be kind of neat to see a three-peat that's something that's never been done before.
Right.
And I think because of coaching, Andy Reid, I think the Chiefs will win because they have two weapons, Andy Reid and somehow Patrick Mahomes, between extreme talent and extreme luck, manages to do, I don't know how he does it. I think it's a healthy combo of luck and talent.
Listen, you can keep hating and call it luck, buddy, but I'm
not hating. I'm saying he's got extreme
you said
talent.
Luck. It's not luck.
But he's got some luck too. He's had some games where he's looked off, but he just, I don't know. It comes through in the clutch plays. So he is a talented quarterback. He may be one of the best.
He is the best. And you know what I like about this whole 3P thing? Tom Brady never did it. Brady. Yeah, that's right.
That is one more reason, I guess, to root for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But Saquon Barkley, love that guy.
Yeah, he's very talented as well. There's no doubt about it. It's it's good for all running backs, really, if you think about it, Tony, because he's brought value back to the position.
Yes, because it was the last few years the running backs were
right,
who cares?
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
But now you see Ashton Gentry from Boise State. Now he's climbed up to number 2 or 3. You would have never saw that in the last 10 years, right?
No.
So anyway,
I think you might have a couple of running backs going in the top 2 or 3 picks.
In
the draft.
So it's good.
This year.
For running backs. Good for them.
But it is, and Saquon Barkley seems like a nice guy. But I will tell you that I think I hope and pray it's a good game. It's close.
Yeah.
Right? I hope that both teams
I have
show
a really
up.
good feeling that it will be, but I hope the Chiefs win, man. Anyway, so
they will because of Andy Reid's coaching.
You were talking about coaching. You're talking about Andy Reid. Guess what? That's what I am. I'm the financial coach. Let's go, baby.
You are. You've got a playbook.
Yes, that's right.
We've got strategies to share with our listeners, and it's called, let me think, Retirement Playbook.
You got it, buddy. That's the name of the show.
Retirement Playbook. Right. It's also the name of the show.
So listen, before we get into, we are going to talk about retirement today, by the way, folks. So the title of our show today is actually Retirement is About the Details. A lot of times, Tony and I will talk about a lot of the same things in different ways, but we talk about some of the same things. We talk about kind of the highlights, the bigger picture, those kinds of things. Today, we're going to get a little bit into the details about things that, you should be thinking about that maybe you haven't thought about. But before we get into that, I want you to go to our website, folks. It's Alspaugh Wealth Management, all spelled out, Alspaugh Wealth Management, ALSPAUGH, wealthmanagement.com. Okay. And you can go to our website and get a lot of great information to get started on your journey to your ideal retirement. And folks, let me tell you something. There's nothing better, or there's nothing you should do more, really, than to get the information to make a decision, right? So get all of the information, gather it all, and then you can say, okay, this is the best decision, I believe, for me and my family and my future, okay? But don't do it without all the information, and actually don't do it without help. There's plenty of people in the world to help you. We're here to help you with your retirement. give us a call, 573-332-7855. Or again, look us up on the web. You can request an appointment with me. You can find a lot of great information on there. You can order my book. Lots of things to do. Again, alspaugwealthmanagement.com. Finally, subscribe to our channel here at YouTube. All right. If you're on Spotify or if you're on some other podcast provider, that's great. Thank you for listening. But if you've got time, go to YouTube and search Alspaugh Wealth Management, and you can subscribe to our channel, and you'll get updates on our shows.
And you can actually watch the show. But I think the question that has to be asked:
what is retirement for you exactly?
Yeah,
I know that's what you ask the people you meet with, and
that's actually one of the reasons why I love what I do, Tony, is because
Yeah.
you're right. That answer is different for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
typically you get some common threads, but the actual answer is different for a lot of people. So that's why I love what I do, putting this puzzle together, because everybody's puzzle is different, right? All right, so listen, we're going to talk about some of the things in retirement that might pop up that is more of a detail-oriented thing that we don't normally discuss. So I'm really excited about doing that, Tony. One of the first things on the list here is reviewing FDIC coverage on bank accounts. Currently the $250,000 limit for individual accounts, $500,000 for joint accounts. Review those beneficiaries, right, to make sure that they match what you want to do. This is a good one, Tony, because we talk a lot about estate planning with our clients to make sure that they have, up-to-date estate plans, and truly to answer this question: who gets what, okay, and who owns what? So really, that's kind of backwards. Who owns what is the first question, and then
Sure.
who gets what is the second question. And so, I'm going to ask the question, hey, do you have a trust? Do you have powers of attorneys? Do you have these basic estate planning documents that we recommend that a lot of people have? And the answer sometimes is yes. And so what we'll do is we'll review those documents to make sure that, hey, you realize this person is on here, or this, fact is in here that you may not want to have, or maybe you want to change it, or maybe it hasn't been updated in 20 years. Just because you have a trust doesn't really, satisfy exactly or answer the question of, is this exactly what you want to happen when you pass? And so it's very, very important that you have these documents, but it's equally as important to have them updated, right, to reflect your current wishes and what you want to happen. This week, I had that exact same case where we had a trust. We had a family limited partnership, LLC, a part of the trust, and there were some moving parts in there that really didn't exist anymore, right? So there would have been a lot of confusion, Tony, in this example of what would happen if they were to pass, and could problems arise? And the answer was yes. So let's not have that. That's the whole point of doing these documents, is to make sure there's no confusion when something happens, right? So anyway, big deal there. Review those beneficiaries. You don't want, and you hear the story all the time, we've talked about this, Tony, ex-spouse, right? We don't want them getting money when we pass, and that could happen. Beneficiary designations.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a huge one, man. Just making sure that all those beneficiary designations are up to date. So when we do annual reviews, that's a big part of our review process. Is, look, this is who we have as your beneficiaries. Is this still who you want? And in this order and this percentage, all of these things we're talking about, to make sure, because typically what you find when something bad happens, like an ex-spouse getting your money, it's because of an employer plan. Maybe it's some dollars or an account that you forgot about that you had. And so, those types of accounts are what we would, hear about when we hear the stories of an ex-spouse getting assets. So,
well, and beneficiary designations in general, and things like that, and how much you have in the bank, and how much you should have allocated, all of these things you've been talking about so far, Brock, should be reviewed once a year at
absolutely,
least, right? I mean,
absolutely, yes.
That's
100%.
why you have at least annual meetings, annual reviews with your clients to go over these things, because any major life change can affect a death in the family, can affect your beneficiary designations.
Yeah, absolutely.
The weddings, marriage, births, deaths, divorce, all of
Right.
these things
All of them.
affect or can affect how you want things beneficiary designations on your
Right.
accounts. So,
Right. There's different ways to have beneficiaries on your accounts, and there's standard, right? Standard ways where, beneficiaries you receive money. If one of the beneficiaries and you have two or more beneficiaries on there, then they would go to the surviving beneficiaries.
Yep.
Sometimes, though, you can set it up to where their portion of their money goes to their family. So, that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Tony, because reviewing provisions for your children, right? To make sure
Right.
that, hey, do you want your son's or daughter's spouse getting their share of the money if they're not alive and something happens? So, and by the way, that's just one example of the provisions for children. You can also, unrelated to that, put provisions on your beneficiaries. So, in
Right.
other
Like,
words,
say you have one child that is trouble or can't handle money or has had drug
exactly.
issues or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
You need to review that beneficiary designation, because if you just set it up early on,
Yeah.
when your kids were young, and then the chain is, oh, well, my husband's already passed and I didn't change my beneficiary designations, but now hey, you've got an 18-year-old that isn't going to be able to handle that. You
Yeah.
need some type of other option set up for your
Yeah.
beneficiary, maybe a trust or
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. A trust is normally recommended in that particular case. If it's simple and you just want to say, "Hey, I want this beneficiary to get it over 10 years and not as a lump sum," you can actually do a restricted beneficiary provision within a normal, beneficiary designation form. Typically is available. But yes, if you want to get beyond that and put stipulations of things that you had just mentioned, Tony, for sure a trust would be the best way to go. And generally speaking, if you want any kind of provisions at all or any kind of restrictions, like you said, a trust is going to be the best way to go there. So
Yeah.
anyway, those are just a couple things to get us started of things that it's a little bit detail, right? And it's not your big income story and budgeting and the things that we normally talk about, but are still very, very important to the success of your overall plan when you have it in retirement. So let's move on here. Another
Sure.
one here is, Tony, is maximizing what you're earning on your cash, right? So we always say what? Emergency fund. You got to have an emergency
You
fund.
got to have one.
Got to have it. And so for a lot of people, if it's 20, 30, 40, or even higher dollar amounts, thousands of dollars, the difference between earning, 0.5% and 4% is a big difference. And so you want to make sure you're maximizing what you can earn on that cash. Lots of options available there. You can talk to your bank. Hey, this brand X over here is offering this, higher rate on my money market. So can you, help me out here and give me a better rate? And a lot of times they'll work with you, Tony. And so, especially the local banks. And so, talk to them if you have to, maybe change banks for a better rate, or there's some plans online as well that will pay that. I don't particularly like that option for me, but some people could be a viable option.
Yeah.
And then if you have an adjustable rate loan, right, considering paying off with extra cash to avoid those rate hikes when they come about. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, Tony. People were doing the shorter term, maybe the adjustable rate mortgages back when rates were 3 or 4%. And,
Oof.
maybe they were getting 2.75, but after that 3 or 5 year period, now, we're seeing those come due. And it's like, okay, these rates are 6, 7, 8%. So, maybe, have a plan as to, using some of that extra cash or just on a monthly basis. It's coming. I mean, I'm a great example of this. I've got a commercial loan coming due in October of this year. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm saving cash, and I'm planning on, having enough money to say, hey, either I'm going to pay it all off, or I'm going to pay off half of it, or I'm going to, not pay any of it off based on, where the rates are. So just setting up the scenarios and making sure you have a plan for things that are coming due. Don't just put your head in the sand and go like, well, I'll just, address it when it comes due.
Don't
No,
kick that can down the road. Have a
exactly.
plan.
Have a plan. That's just
Yeah.
like anything else. So
Plan for the best and prepare for the worst.
right, exactly.
Right?
So, and also, guys, when it comes to in retirement, so let's talk about later on in life. If you've got required minimum distributions out of your IRAs that you're going to have to take out in 2025, most of the time, like for sure in our practice, like we're on top of it. Like we're contacting people in January and February about their required minimum distributions if it's their first year in 2025 to take that out. So if you're 73 or if you turn 73 in 2025, you've got to take your first year distribution. Okay. So what is your plan? Are you going to take it monthly? You're going to take it quarterly? You're going to take it annually? I mean, these are all, and there's, benefits to all of those. So,
and you've talked about qualified charitable distributions or QCDs as a way to not pay taxes on that money. If you're already giving to a charity or a church or a nonprofit, you can instead have it come right out of that IRA. And
yeah, for sure. We do those.
you'll-
Yeah, absolutely. We do those a lot. Qualified, QCDs, like you said, qualified charitable distributions to where, hey, I know it's my year to take my distribution. I'm 73 or older, but I don't necessarily need the money. And I'm already, planning on contributing to church. I do that. And I just deduct it off of my taxes. Well, you don't have to do that. Right? You just do a QCD and you're done. Right? You don't have to.
Yeah, because with the standard deduction, most people don't itemize anyway anymore.
Bingo.
So they're not really getting any benefit out of writing a check. They're actually paying taxes on that money when they don't have to be. My parents were doing that. And I said, how did you pay your tithing to the church each year? You're over 70 and a half at that time, or 72.
Yep.
And you wrote a check. Yeah. Well, you have an IRA. Yeah. They're making you take money out of that IRA and pay taxes on it.
Look at the big brain on this guy.
No, that's
There
all
you
you.
go.
I didn't know any of that before. That's your ball game, and that's why we're here, is to learn these strategies. And it saved my parents a lot in taxes and kept them from bumping up. If they take those QCDs, some people, it's going to affect how much you have to pay per month in Medicare too, right?
For sure. You get that IRMA tax coming into play.
Oh, Aunt Irma.
She
is not she's one of the mean ants.
Yeah, she's like on that commercial, the ants are coming and they got ants in their house. Expired.
It's a lot of house.
Yeah, it's a
sure hope you can keep it clean.
That thing's been running for like 10 years. I feel like
I still laugh.
I do too.
I still laugh every time. Expired.
Anyway, okay, listen, this is a big one too, Tony. I get this a lot. So let's say you decide you want to change who you work with. You want to change financial advisors. And so you're going to change your accounts over to a new custodian. Be careful, because you got to make sure that if you did not take your required minimum distribution prior to transfer, you've got to make sure that once you do transfer it over, that there's provisions where you can do that, right? So you don't want to be locked down to anything where you can't take your required minimum distribution. Make sure that if you're changing custodians, that is talked about and discussed to make sure that everybody's on the same page as to when and how you're taking that distribution in a year that you decide to transfer custodians.
Sure.
Excuse me. Tracking HSA funds and spending. So that's another big one, is like, hey, you've got this HSA account, which if you've listened to this show ever, I'm a huge fan of, using and building that money up, because it's not a use it or lose it situation. You can continue to build money in your HSA if you're lucky enough where you don't have to use the money for your deductibles and stuff.
Right.
But if you can kind of accumulate more money, you can use that in retirement, folks. And so you can have that account growing tax-free, essentially, because you can take it out and pay your medical bills with it for qualified expenses, and you don't pay any taxes. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, right? It's like almost like having a Roth for your medical expenses. And so it's a really good way to manage your healthcare costs, but you've got to track those funds, and you got to make sure that and track your spending on those as well. So that's just another little detail that we've been talking about today. That's the title of today's show, is details in retirement, to make sure that you don't lose track of some of these things.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's do a little bit more. Life insurance, considering life insurance. A lot of people are like, well, what the heck? Why would I buy life insurance and, retirement?
Is this guy, is this Brock's not trying to sell me life insurance now, is he? But you do need to insure your future, and make sure your loved ones aren't left with a bad situation. And so there are people get underinsured or overinsured, but you do need to look at it, don't you, and review what you have and what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it helps kind of alleviate taxes, right? Because your benefit, your death benefit paid from a life insurance policy is paid tax free. And so that can help with some of the other investments and assets that you have that will be taxable to your beneficiary to help kind of pay for those taxes. You may not care because it's like, hey, they're getting money, and so let them pay the taxes. And you know what? I get it. And I'm not going to argue with that whatsoever. But life insurance is becoming a lot more of a could be considered kind of a Swiss Army knife, Tony, because you can do a lot of different things. You can use the death benefit for yourself for long-term care purposes, for example. And we've been talking a lot about that lately with our clients as well. And then you can also use the cash value if you had to. So if you overfund a policy and you got plenty of cash value built up, you can maybe use that in a very tax efficient manner as well. And then ultimately, it's this original purpose of death benefits being paid out tax free is obviously a huge advantage too. So it's just leverage, right? Using the insurance company's leverage to put money into something that will pay you benefits and your beneficiary benefits later on. That's leverage, right? So that's what it's all about. So another one that's a little one that some people overlook in retirement. And then also when you're talking about, leaving money to beneficiaries, we're going to talk about minors, right? Those with special needs, people who can't manage assets. There's a lot of things to think about here when you're talking about who's getting what. So who owns what and who's getting what. If you've got minors involved, that's okay, but we need to make sure that we're leaving money and provisions to have someone take care of that money until they become age of majority. So there's lots of things to think about, Tony. And,
there are
little details, and I hope that you've gotten something out of today's show. So always my goal is when I go to places, like I go to conferences, Tony, and we just got back from the summit a few weeks ago. That is a educational summit for us as financial advisors. If I always say, if I can pull one, or if I'm really lucky, if I feel like I can get two things out of a couple days of training that will really help me in my life and in my practice, I feel the same way about this show, Tony. If someone listening can get one or two little tidbits and that can help them in their life, man, I feel great about that. So if there's anything that you guys, are out there and you say, you know what, I'd like to hear about this too, you can always call our office. We'd be glad to talk to you and introduce ideas that and for this radio show as well and for the podcast. So anyway, it's been great, Tony. Give them what we need to talk about next, which is where can they find us, right? And how do they get a hold of us, right? So 573-332-7855, or look us up on the web. It's alspaugwealthmanagement.com, and you can request an appointment with us. You can look at all of the information that's available. We're talking about Roth conversion still, and lots of different things. And so look us up on the web at alspaugwealthmanagement.com.
Retirement will be a wonderful adventure, and we'll do it together.
You like that one?
What he said, yes.
Exactly. Well, Brock, great show today, and it is so important to strategize and review. Make sure you have a plan in place for retirement. Again, listeners out there, Brock has set aside some openings to meet with you. If you have questions, want to get your own plan in place, call his office and set up a time to meet, set up that consultation. Again, the number is 573-332-7855. And that does it for today's episode of the Retirement Playbook with our host, Brock Alspaugh.